Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, or very possibly good morning or good evening, depending on where you are joining us from in the world. Welcome to today's webinar entitled Distance Learning with Films on Demand from Infobase. Excuse me, I just had a little bit of a need to clear my throat there while we are getting started. So regardless of where you are in the world, speaking of that, I'm sure that you have in some way, shape, or form been impacted by the current COVID-19 crisis that we are all kind of dealing with and working our way through. I have, obviously full confidence that we as humans will get through it. We'll come out the other side just as good, if not better, than when we went in. But there are some things that we probably need to, be aware of and kind of rethink how we're doing certain things. And so my goal today with this webinar is to show you some of the things that you can do with Films on Demand while your students, if they are still able to continue with their current semester's coursework, while they are essentially doing all of their learning from home and or remotely wherever they are in the world. So I'll be today's webinar is going to be kind of a combination. I will do just some general. I'll make some general comments in the beginning, and then as we get through, as we go along, I'll be talking about more specific tools that are available and specific ways that you can share the videos from Films on Demand with your students, or ways that your faculty can do that if you are kind of the conduit for this type of information, which I'm sure a lot of you right now are probably just trying to keep everything sort of straight and learn as much as you can and try to figure out what you don't know and try to build that knowledge base and then share that knowledge with others at your institution. So I know a couple of you are commenting that you can't hear me. Of course, it's not going to help if you can't hear me, but if you are having that issue, just sign out of the webinar and then sign back in. That often clears that up. If you are having any kind of audio issues or video issues, I mean, a lot of people are online right now, so I think that's becoming more common. So certainly if you're having any kind of issues, and by the way, I'm trying to type at the same time as I am presenting, which is not an easy task to do for me under the best of circumstances, and certainly not as easy today. But anyway, so let's go ahead and kind of jump in and talk a little bit about Films on Demand. So if for those of you who and I recognize that under the current circumstances, some of you may be discovering Films on Demand for the first time, or maybe you're not quite as familiar with quite as familiar with the resource and the different tools that are in there. So I always like to just start out with a very brief kind of introduction. So Films on Demand is essentially a streaming video platform consisting of tens of thousands of full title videos, as well as a number of segments. And what we try to do with the platform is to try to make as much of that video content as easily discoverable as possible. It is virtually impossible for any one person, unless you are part of the acquisitions team at Infobase, to know everything that's in here. And so we try to bring forward as much of the content as we can through this really highly engaging and interactive homepage. You'll see a number of sliders that we've created to help you kind of get started and see different types of content. One of the great things about this most recent version of Films on Demand, and it may be very useful to you all now, is the fact that you can actually create your own sliders. So if you have access to the admin functionality, you can go into the admin portal and actually generate sliders of your own. So even despite what's happening right now, we are still about a week away from the end of Women's History Month. So we still have about a week more of that. So you may want to create sliders to, celebrate the achievements of women. And you may, also want to kind of search the database and find content related to the current health crisis or to related topics. I can tell you though, this development is obviously relatively new, and it takes some time for us to acquire new content. So as of right now, what you're going to find in Films on Demand related to COVID-19 or coronaviruses in general is going to be more general in nature, or it's going to be in reference to some of the recent situations that we've seen, like the SARS outbreak and the bird flu epidemic, and even going back to the plague of 1918. There's information, or the influenza crisis of 1918, not really a plague. And so, there's going to be that information, but as far as finding something on the current crisis, that's going to come with time. I think eventually, as producers are making content, I mean, we saw it with SARS, and we saw it with some of the previous pandemics that we've seen, that, it does take a little while for some of that content to come to light. Right now, there's a lot of stuff being posted on social media and YouTube and all of that, but eventually there will be reputable producers creating documentaries and making, more potentially more credible and more, educationally sound videos on this topic. So we do try to, again, we try to make that as evident as possible, just so that as you're converting to more of a remote situation, you're able to find those kinds of resources. And it might also help to go to the subject landing page, and this is going to be reflective of whatever collections your institution subscribes to. I've been talking a lot lately with our inside sales reps, and they're saying that they're seeing that a lot of people, not necessarily, you guys, but people on more the end user side, like teachers and parents, and even students, not being fully aware of what is available to them. So if they knew that they had access to Films on Demand, they probably would have jumped into that a lot sooner. So, on the opposite side of making sure that all of you are, well versed and well trained in using the resource, we're also really trying really hard to make sure that people actually know that they have access to it. So part of that, though, is just realizing that there's a wealth of content in here covering every single subject area that you could possibly need to address right now. So as it's within your power to continue your courses online and virtually, there's content in here for every single subject area, every single department, from the business department to history and science and social studies, psychology and sociology, math, English. I mean, every possible type of content is readily available here. And then you can also, along with sort of looking at the overall collection of subject materials, we also have producers that you can search directly. So if you go into the producer page, I'm not going to do that really today because there are other things that we're going to be focusing on, since we really want to talk a lot more about distance learning and sharing videos and that sort of thing. But just be aware that you can also browse the platform by producer. So if you know of a certain producer that is particularly, heavy on the types of videos or the subject matter that you deal with, or that maybe somebody is looking for, there's also the possibility of doing that as well. So let me just do a quick search here. I think it's probably good to just jump right in and start looking at how the content is going to come up as you're using the platform, and the things that you can do along the way. So the first thing that I always recommend doing, and this is just general, doesn't matter if we're in the middle of a pandemic or not, I always suggest going to the filters here, finding the one that says all formats, and then clicking on full titles. If you're doing just kind of basic or simple searching, you're going to end up with results that include both full video titles and also segments. So you want to clean that up a little bit, make sure that you're only seeing the content, in its most complete form. So it just makes it a little easier, more doable to be able to get through some of those results. So here we have a page of results for a search on influenza. There are going to be a number of different videos that come up. And so what you can do once you get to this page is you can go to any of the search results here. I normally make a big deal about previewing But again, today we're really more focusing on the sharing tools. So what you can do is you click on the share icon, and as we'll see in a minute, that's also going to appear on the actual video player page. So just click on that and you can easily share the video via email. What this is going to do once you put in your information, it's actually going to populate the email with a link to the video. And so you can go ahead and then share that to whomever you would like. The next tab is the embed/link tab. This consists of a record URL, which is great for posting on your website. You know, a lot of people now, you know, with all of us basically, or most of us, I think if you're one of those rare individuals watching this webinar and you're not working remotely, or you're not, you know, required to teach your students via distance learning, or, you know, online, then you're definitely among the rare specimens at this point. So I think many of you are probably trying to convey information on your websites to make sure that students are aware of what the options are and what they have access to. So the record URL is really good for that. Just grab that, you know, click copy, post it anywhere on your web page. It's coded with your actual account information. So if they click on that, if they're watching, you know, if they're sitting at home and they want to access a video on their laptop or their desktop or their whatever device they're using, if they're not already logged into Films on Demand via your account, they're going to have to log in. But when we get to the playlist side, that's what's a really neat feature, is that if you are using, if you're creating and sending students playlists, they can click on and view the playlist without actually logging into Films on Demand. That's the one thing that they can do that doesn't require them to actually know the login information. But I suspect that most of you by now have probably shared that with everybody. They know how to get in. The other thing that we're going to talk about a little bit later on in this webinar is using a platform such as Canvas. That's another option that you have. I know many of you are probably using Canvas with your students already. And so you can actually go into your Canvas instance, look for the Films on Demand app, and then sign in and share content directly that way. Or if you're not using either, I think we have direct integrations right now with Canvas. What used to be called D2L is now, I forget what it's called, Brightspace, I think is the new name. If you have that, or if you're using, and I don't know how many universities use Schoology, that's something that I know is very popular with K-12 schools. So if you're using any of those platforms or any of those pieces of software, you can go right into there, and there's an app already built into the platform for Films on Demand that you can go ahead and start using right away. If not, you can grab this embed code. That's easy to just copy and paste into wherever wherever your HTML code lives. Within your whatever instance you're using, whatever type of app, you know, if it's something other than Canvas or Brightspace. I know we have people using It's Learning is another one. There's a whole bunch that I don't even really know well, and because it's not really my expertise. But whatever you're using, make use of the embed code. There's also an LTI link. I think that's something that's also built into Canvas. So if you're using any LTI apps in addition to you know, Canvas or any of the other ones that I mentioned, there are actually tips that you can follow within Canvas to help you do that as well. So this is all if you're just going right from Films on Demand. So as part of that, you can uh, uh, adjust the embed video size. I'm not, you know, tech savvy myself to be able to explain this in language that is going to sound really authoritative at this point. So all I will say is that you can do it, including entering your own custom size based on your needs. The other thing that you can do directly from any search results page, and this is actually going to come into play, particularly if you are creating and sharing playlists. I know you can always save favorites. I mean, that's probably something that's happening a lot less these days, at least right now. But if you do end up finding a video that you just want to kind of tuck away, maybe, you know, go back to later on, maybe watch at a certain point, just like you can kind of on YouTube click watch later. You know, if you're using like a Netflix or anything like that, they have a watch list or favorites option there as well. I think it's watch list. It's called watch list on Hulu. It might be called something different on Netflix. I can't remember, but it's the same idea. You're just saving your favorite videos. But I think what's probably going to be more useful right now is the playlist creation tool. So as you're searching around films on demand, you just grab any video and you can select between, well, among really, either the full title or all the segments or any of the individual segments, however you'd like to do that, and then add that either to an existing playlist or create a brand new playlist right from here. Go ahead and click save, and then that video is going to go into your my content area, which we're going to look at after we go into the actual video, because that's going to be a good kind of a way to round out, kind of sum up what we're talking about when it comes to sharing videos. So let me check let me stop here if we have any questions here. Okay, so really quickly, Jeff wants to know if this will be recorded so you can share it with others. Yes, absolutely. You'll get an email later today. And that's, of course, if you're watching us live right now, you'll get an email later on with a recording that you can share if you'd like, and also view on your own. Of course, if you are watching this as a recording, you already know that. So welcome. What is a slider? That's from Rhonda. Basically, any of those strips that you see on our homepage. So if you go back to the homepage, each one of these, and I think some people may use different terminology. We at Infobase generally call them sliders, and that's kind of a, that's maybe a technical kind of a term. I don't know. I just use it because that's what I hear. So that's what I repeat. But I think some people call them strips or, I don't know. There might be other names for those as well. But basically each one of these um, horizontal strips here is what I mean by slider. Let's see. We have a question from Jeff who says, let's see, trying to add to Canvas, what does that mean? So there's actually and I'm really trying to keep this sort of kind of, more general for everybody, because I realize that not everybody has Canvas. And if I sit here and I do, a 10-minute walkthrough of how to add videos to Canvas, 2/3 of you are going to be like, oh, I really don't need to see that. I don't have it, whatever. So if you do need help with that, you can go down to the bottom of the homepage. There's actually a help link. And if you type in Canvas, out will pop a couple of articles describing in detail how to make use of the external Films on Demand app within your Canvas instance. So there's also a step-by-step instructional article on how to install that. So that'll kind of walk you through everything, and then hopefully that'll make make sense to those of you who are maybe using Canvas right now. But that's probably the easiest way for you guys to get started with that. If you do have Canvas, you really haven't ever used it with Films on Demand, I mean, that's certainly understandable. My oldest son is in community college. They're using Canvas, but I have yet to hear him say anything about, hey, you know what? They just shared one of your databases with us, and they want us to go in and read an article or a video, watch a video, or what have you. I haven't heard those words come out of him yet all school year since last year. So even before right now, that has not happened. So I suspect that there are many many of you who are maybe using Canvas for other purposes, but you can definitely use it for Films on Demand as well. All right, so let's go into a video here. I was going to use the one that I just was in, the one that came up during our search result here, but I'm going to go ahead and just kind of I'm going to pick a video from our homepage here just to kind of jump in and be able to show you some of those other features. So as you go into the video player page, here's another place where you can add videos to either your favorites folder or to a playlist. Same exact functionality as before. It's just, you may decide to do that right from your search results page, or you may decide to wait until you get to the video player page to do that. And then the share options are here as well. So you have your embed code, your record URL, all of that stuff here as well. And then there's a couple of additional links here. There's a citation, obviously, for every single video. That's important if your students are using Films on Demand as part of their research project or paper. And then we also have a custom segment creation tool. So in terms of what's going on right now, I could see this being really useful if, let's say, you found this really great video that you want to use as part of your, your lessons, or you want to be able to share with students, but it's kind of long. a lot of it really isn't relevant to whatever topic you're talking about or teaching. And you just really need a smaller piece of it, maybe a 10-minute, 15-minute chunk of it. You can go in here, type in a time, and you can find that either by scrolling across the bottom of the video, or by going up here to the interactive transcript and then clicking anywhere in here. So if you're reading this transcript and go, oh yeah, I really want this to be part of my custom clip, just go ahead and click on it, and that'll give you the start time right there. The start time here was about 2:15, and then just figure out where you want that clip to end, click there, and then those will give you your start time and your end time. Just type them in and then give it a title, maybe add some descriptive language here to let students know what it's all about, or yourself later on, and then go ahead and create your segment. And then that segment can be used just like it if it were a video that was already in the database. So that could be a full video or an existing pre-made segment. It's going to act the same way. You can save it to your favorites. You can add it to a playlist. You can move it around into different folders. You can share it directly as a single clip with your students. All of that can be done right from there. So this is a good point to talk about where all of that goes. I think a couple of you were asking about that earlier. I wanted to wait until I got to the actual video player page before showing you that, because then I would have to kind of backtrack and show some of the same things again after already showing you where it all goes. So I thought it would make more sense and be more logical if we kind of continue to move in a forward direction. So now that you've seen how to add videos to your favorites, and to a playlist, and how to create a custom segment, probably a good time to talk about where all that goes. So the first thing you're going to have to do, if you haven't already done this before, and I guess I often assume that people have, because we're so accustomed these days to using all these websites that ask you to create an account. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's a streaming site like Netflix or Hulu, or if it's a shopper site, like a consumer site for your favorite grocery store chain or department store. When you go onto their website, the first thing they're going to say to you is, hey, create an account. And then once you do that, you can save information. You can sign up for email alerts. They'll send you coupons, all that good stuff. Same exact thing with Films on Demand. As if you're a new user, maybe your college has had it for a while, you just really never thought much about using it on a regular basis, but now all of a sudden, holy cow, we really need to be using this because of the vast amount of content in there. And my colleagues are telling me you need to be using Films on Demand. So the first thing you should definitely do is go in here and create your own account. So if you're not logged in, let's say you go into your Films on Demand. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Let's see if it'll let me stay signed out without actually going to that sign-in page. It's not going to do that. So anyway, normally when you go to Films on Demand and you first log in, you've never really used it before, or you're kind of new, you'll see a link up here that says, shoot, what does it say when you're not logged in? I think it says My Profile. I'm always automatically logged in, so I forget what it looks like when it's not, but I think it says My Profile. Click that, create your account, do that day one, minute one, as soon as you first log in. That's going to be really important, because then all those things that you do, like save your favorites, create a playlist, create a custom segment, all goes into the area called My Content. As you can see, I've been storing up some goodies in here for quite a while. Some of these I haven't even looked at lately. Some of this stuff goes all the way back to 2016, which actually gives me an opportunity to remind you that anytime you create that account, all that information is going to stay in there. If you create an account and you save favorite videos, or you create a playlist, assuming the videos are still in the platform and don't get removed for some reason, which does happen periodically because licenses expire, we do send out notifications about that if you're on the list. So if you're involved in the subscription at all, you're part of the renewal team or whatever, you'll get that email. If you aren't, then you'll have to check with the person that does get those, and they'll let you know if there's anything coming out. I think it's a quarterly process that you may be already using. But once you create that account, it's going to stay in films on demand until somebody on our end goes in and removes it, which we never do. Sometimes we get requests for that sort of thing, but it's very rare. Anyway, so once you create whatever you have in here, it's a playlist or a saved search, you can go right into your account and it's always going to be here. You'll see a drop down box of actions next to each thing. So this is a playlist that I created at the end of February in anticipation of Women's History Month. So when I click the actions drop down, I have several things that I can do with it. I can delete it or move it. I can make a copy of it if I want to share it with a colleague. I can share it with people outside of the platform, like with students. I can make changes to it or edit it, and then I can add it to a search. And you'll see what this will become more relevant when we go into the actual playlist and talk about some of the editing features, because that's an important next step. So when we go into a playlist like this one here, all about Women's History Month, which we are about a week away from exiting out of at this point. I hope you still find opportunities to use these videos for that. But there's going to be, as long as it's a playlist that you actually created or saved, there's going to be an edit option. So click the edit button, and then it will allow you to go in and make all kinds of changes. Like you can change the title, you can add some notes. The notes will be visible by anybody using the playlist, like students and so on. And then you can also set a thumbnail image, and then you can come down here and we've got a number of options as well. First one is content. You can start moving things around if you want. I'm not going to save any of the changes, so it's fine. There's also a way that you can add an introductory video. So now that we're all kind of learning remotely and not in a classroom anymore, at least for now, you may want to create a video, using your computer's webcam or using maybe some recording equipment that you have available to you. Probably for most of you, that stuff is back at your school, at your, either in your office or you're really tight with the media person and they've been letting you use their stuff. Whatever the case is, you can certainly use your webcam on your computer. Create a video saying, hey, hi everybody, it's Dr. DeRue here. I'm upgrading my title for the sake of the video here. Hey, it's Dr. DeRue. I just wanted to, let you know that I've created this playlist for you guys. Please watch the videos, and then when we meet on Friday in our session on whatever you're using, Canvas or Google Meet or what have you, we're going to talk about this video playlist, and it may also be on an assessment that I'm going to send out to you guys next week. So just be aware of that. Make sure you pay close attention, particularly videos 2, 3, and 4. They're really going to be heavily involved with what we're going to be talking about. All right, and you make the video, you upload it by using the upload feature here, and then it will automatically populate on your content page, and you can just be sure that it's the first video, and then whenever students go in, they'll be able to watch that. So that's a great tool to keep your students engaged, and for your professors to really be part of your students' educational experience, even though we're all kind of, out in the universe right now, not able to do anything in person, unfortunately. So let's see. We have a couple more questions. I want to make sure that I get to as many of these questions as I can. Question from Daniel. He wants to know, are all of these videos captioned and are they only available in English? The answer to the first part of that is not all videos are captioned, not 100%, but it's definitely better than 95%. There are some instances because of our licensing agreements or because of producer requirements that we're not able to do that. Certainly that's not our decision. We would have 100% of our videos captioned if we could, but there are, and I'm not sure exactly who they are, but if you ever see an instance where there isn't a tool available to turn on closed captioning, or it doesn't work, I should say, that's probably why. Are they only available in English? As of right now, yes. That's unfortunately the only language that we have available, and I don't foresee them adding any other languages at any point, to be completely honest. It's just not something that I think we're not. I think that's just something that we're not really investing too much time and energy into right now. Maybe sometime way down the road, but definitely not right now. Dan also wants to know, do students have to create a Films on Demand account in order to create a segment? So yes, students have to, if students are doing any of the things that we're talking about today, such as saving favorites, creating accounts, putting together a playlist, they would also have to have their own account in order to do all of that. But it's really easy. When they log into Films on Demand, just tell them, click the My Profile link at the top here, and it's basically self-guiding. It only takes about a minute. And for those of you who are members of the faculty, if you do create your account, you'll be at some point you'll be asked if you want to sign up for our monthly newsletter, or if you want to sign up for monthly emails with updates on different types of subject matter. So we'll send you an email every month. If you're the history department chair or a history professor, every month you can sign up for an email that says, hey, here are the latest history videos that were added to Films on Demand because you asked us to let you know. And by doing that, you're not signing up for anything else. You're not going to get every single marketing email that we send out. You're not going to get renewal information, all that other stuff. Those things only go to those who are in the account in our system and listed as, people who are okay to send that stuff to. The newsletter and the update, the email update only goes to people who sign up for it. It's not something that we send out to anyone else on a regular basis, and it doesn't automatically sign you up for any other emails. I know right now, with all of us basically being at our computers all day long, the last thing we want is to be flooded with emails that have nothing to do with anything that we care about. So I get that. That will ask you to sign up for them if you want them, but you can ignore that and just leave the box unchecked. You don't even have to do it if you don't want to. Totally understandable. Let's see. So the next question comes from Kate. When would you use the playlist versus making a class? The playlist is the distinction about the playlist. And actually, thank you for asking me that question, because I forgot to mention earlier that when you I'm going to just go ahead and save the changes here. I didn't really make any changes, but whatever. When you have a playlist created and you go to share it, when students receive that link, that they're not going to be required to actually sign into Films on Demand. So that's the big difference here. If you're sharing, if you're sharing a playlist either via email, with the link populated, or with the record URL or with the embed code, any of these methods. And by the way, the email will automatically populate with the record URL in case you're wondering what that would look like. If you do share that link with students, they're going to be able to click that and watch the playlist without signing in. So the difference there would be, if you're using either the class feature, and I don't know if a lot of you are using that, I feel like, that's definitely something more, more popular with our K-12 customers in some of our other platforms, because a lot of them are using Google Classroom, this thing that allows them to share information with each other, outside of any particular product. But if you are using that feature, then that's definitely another way that you can share content with your students. So this is a relatively new feature. I haven't even had a lot of time to really play around with it yet. I've only gotten access to it as of like a week ago, so I really haven't had much time to play with it as yet. But if you are using that, you can create a class within Films on Demand, and then once you have a class created, you can go ahead and share videos and add comments that indicating that you want students to do some kind of an assignment related to that, maybe write a paper or whatever. So that's all possible within the account. But the difference there is you do have to invite students to join that class. And then I believe, and I'm not 100% sure about that, but I believe that process automatically creates an account for them, so that, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to participate in the class. But the playlist is distinct because you don't need to even have students log in. If they don't have an account, or they don't really know too much about Films on Demand, don't really know how to access the account feature, they don't have to do any of that. It's automatically going to allow them to click and watch the playlist without having to deal with any kind of logins, usernames, passwords, joining anything or anything like that. So a question from Betsy is captioning a filtered item? It is an item that must be turned on. I believe that if you go into your admin portal, you can turn that on or off. It might also be a setting here. Let's see. I'm not sure. I've never actually. Yeah, I don't think you can turn that. Okay, here we go. So there's an option within your own account that says always start my videos with closed captioned enabled. So you can, make sure that that's going to be turned on for you every time you log into Films on Demand. That's also a global setting in the admin portal, so you can enable or disable closed captioning. So I think if that's not what you mean by is that a filtered item, then you feel free to clarify. But I think that's what you're asking, Betsy, is whether or not that's something that people can turn on or off. And if you're asking because you can't see it, then what you would have to do is both make sure it's turned on in your own account, but also if you're the admin, or if you can reach out to the admin, go into the admin portal and make sure that that's turned on for everybody using your account as well. And that's also another important thing that I should probably mention, because for many of you, you might be, and I'm actually going to go in here. I think it's important to show you this. For many of you, you might be accessing films on demand, but you don't have certain features, or you're not seeing certain tools that you can make use of. If you're the admin, then make sure you do this, or if you know the admin for your account, make sure you reach out to them and say, hey, please turn all these things on. We've got a Microsoft sign-in option in here. You want to make sure that that is turned on, and it doesn't look like that's optional here. But like your Google sign-in option, we have direct Google sign-in. We have if you're Google Classroom is not useful for you guys, but we also have all these other types of platforms, like I mentioned, Canvas, D2L, which is now Brightspace, Schoology, Moodle. I think Blackboard is another one that sometimes people are using. I don't see that here, but if you are interested in using any of those, just make sure that those features are turned on, and make sure that your admin has taken the steps to reach out to any necessary whoops, hold on, let me not do that. Make sure that, why is it doing that? I'm not sure. Just make sure that you are reaching out to your admin and are able to, get all those things turned on and set up for you so that you can make use of all those. All right, so that takes us to the end of today's webinar. I hope that you found this to be somewhat helpful. And again, if there are specific questions that you have related to any of the platforms that I've mentioned, or any of the features and tools, there's a really extensive support center. Not only does it include lots and lots of articles, but it also includes links to previous webinars. There are a few tutorials in there. We've also got some promotional materials that you can use to let everybody know that you have films on demand and that they can access it right away. Just a note on that, we aren't sending out any physical marketing materials like posters and bookmarks at this point, basically because the city of New York is under a huge lockdown, and there's really nobody in our office at the moment. They might be going in like once a month, but that is going to really be more to cut checks and pay our producers, and has really not anything to do with sending out marketing materials. But once the crisis is over, just know that you can also reach out to us to request physical materials like bookmarks and posters and flyers and things like that. We'll be happy to send all those to you as part of your ongoing effort to promote and raise awareness for films on demand. All right, everybody, thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been a really encouraging webinar for me, because we never know if people are still engaging in things like webinars, but it's clear from all of your great questions and from the number of people that have signed on that webinars are a really helpful tool for you guys, and we certainly appreciate that you are taking the time to join and kind of learn more about films on demand. Above all of that, just please know that Infobase is here for you. If there's anything that you need that you aren't receiving currently, go ahead and reach out to us, either using the information at the bottom of the screen here, or go ahead and reach out to your account rep if you know that person is. If there's anything that you wanted to have maybe a free trial of outside of films on demand, we're doing all of that right now. We definitely have to really work together as a community to get through this, and we're certainly hopeful to willing to do our part to help out as well. So thank you guys so much. Stay safe, have a great Wednesday, and a wonderful remainder of your week.